Hi friends, welcome. Today I'm going to be doing a little tutorial on Pattern Keeper. Not only am I doing a tutorial, I'm going to include a few tips and tricks that even if you have used Pattern Keeper for a while, you might not be aware of. So stick around to the end of the video and I hope you will learn something new. So first off, what is Pattern Keeper? Pattern Keeper is an Android app which keeps your patterns. You'll see later on as we go through it, basically it takes a digital PDF pattern, reads it, and then puts it into a format where you can search for colors, highlight certain colors, and mark them as done. It records your progress in terms of stitches, and basically I can't live without it anymore for my cross-stitching. I made the switch from using paper patterns and I have never looked back. Pattern Keeper is not a free app. It is paid. It is a one-time payment. And if you're going to be doing any large amounts of stitching, I highly recommend that you put a little bit of money aside and go ahead and dive in. I believe it's $12.50 Canadian, something like that. I will, if I find out the real price, I'll put it up, but it is more than worth it. Now, a lot of people are put off by the fact that it is an Android app, and they think that it can only run on Android tablets or phones. Not all of us have an Android tablet or phone, especially one large enough to be able to clearly see the pattern. So what you can do is you can run an Android emulator on your PC that will then run Pattern Keeper. That's what I do, and that's what I'm doing for this tutorial. I use the emulator BlueStacks. I can recommend this one. It is a little bit CPU heavy, so I wouldn't run it at the same time as, say, playing a game, but it is the best emulator I've found. It is trustworthy, and it runs Pattern Keeper no problem. So if you didn't know that you can run Pattern Keeper on your PC, there's your tip number one. So I'm going to go over 4 common errors that you're going to get while inputting a pattern into Pattern Keeper. Most designers now know that a lot of stitchers are using Pattern Keeper, and they make sure that their PDFs are Pattern Keeper compatible. However, a few designers either don't know how to do that or just straight up refuse to do it because it means changing the way that they've always done their PDFs. So your pattern might go into Pattern Keeper completely perfectly the first try. It might not. So we're going to go over 4 common errors that you are going to run into. So for this tutorial, I am using my own patterns, and I have deliberately made them not work in Pattern Keeper. All right, so the first error we're going to look at is grid not found. So here's our Pattern Keeper. I don't have any patterns in here right now. I cleared it out for this tutorial. So we're going to add a pattern with this plus button. We're going to open a cross stitch pattern from PDF. Now this is where the emulator gets a little bit different because it has the pick from Windows rather than picking from files on your device. All right, so I've picked a pattern. This is one of my older patterns. We're reading the first page. All right, here's the first error that you could get, which is no grids found in PDF. You can watch this little video. I've actually never watched the video. I've just fixed it. So the first thing you need to do is we're going to add a grid to this. You need to know how large the grid is in the pattern. In this case, I know it is 31 by 31 stitches. You can find that either by looking at your original PDF, or you can zoom in on this one, and we can see there it's 31 by 31. So we're going to use the plus button to add a grid. It's going to, by default, add a 10 by 10 grid. You have to go to the edit tool over here and update this with the correct number of stitches. So we're going to go 31 by 31. Okay. And it's going to change this small blue grid to be 31 stitches by 31 stitches. Now what you have to do is hold and drag the corners of the grid to the corners of your chart. You can zoom in and out to make sure that these are perfectly lined up. As you can see, it's not quite lined up, so I'm just going to zoom in, do some fine tuning here. Okay, when you're happy with your grid, you just hit OK. It'll process. So the next step here, this is the second error that you're going to come across. And this is, they imported the chart with the symbols, but it doesn't have the thread numbers. So all you have to do is input the thread numbers here. So here are all the stitch symbols that are shown in our little pattern. Here's your first trick that you may not be aware of. So right now it's showing you the mock-up. What you can do is hit up here where it says PDF, and it'll switch over to show you the PDF, which has our legend. So instead of pulling up the PDF on your laptop or in another window or something like that and having to bounce between programs, you can pull up the PDF here and put them all in from this screen. So we're going to start with the heart. It's going to be 318. You can also change the brand. It is DMC by default. So we're going to put 318, save that. All right, we've got all of our floss input correctly. You're going to want to go back to the mock-up and make sure that the mock-up looks the same as your pattern, that there aren't any stray stitches, that all the colors are in the correct place, that you have everything lined up. So once you are good with your mock-up, all you're going to do is hit the next button. And here it is. You are able to use your pattern as you would any other one. So the next error that I'm going to show you is if there are multiple grids in the same pattern. And you'll get this sometimes with designers who include the colored version as well as the black and white version of the chart within the same PDF file. As you can see, it's trying to parse the grids and it's having difficulty because it doesn't know how big the chart is supposed to be. It's asking, is it 50 by 152 or 100 by 76? So both of these numbers are wrong. So we're going to hit OK. It's going to input the thread numbers. We can go back to our PDF and check it over. So this is the PDF, it's Cozy Bob. And as you can see, there are 2 grids. The only way to fix this error is to re-save your PDF. So what you're going to do is you're just going to hit back. You're going to use the 3 lines here, delete your progress, delete. Now what you need to do is open up your pattern in a different program. I recommend that you open it in your web browser, whether that be Chrome or Opera. I just find that this step works more easily if you do it from your browser than from Adobe Acrobat. Now you'll want to keep the legend, and then you can choose either one of the charts. Most of the time I will take the black and white chart. It just tends to import more easily. So what you're going to do now is go to the print icon. So we're going to go to save as PDF. You're going to select a custom page range. In this case, it's page 2 to 3. Make sure in the preview that you're getting the chart you want and the legend, but only one chart. We're going to save that as a new PDF. And then you're going to go back to your pattern keeper. And we're going to try this again. All right, it's going to try and process. And it has successfully imported the chart, but not all the thread numbers. So you would just now go through the same step that we did before and input all of your thread numbers so you can get the your finished mock-up. All right, the last common error that I'm going to show you is one that has happened to me quite frequently with designers who are maybe a little bit old-fashioned. This is what's going to happen if you have any PDFs that are saved from magazines or scanned in. So let me show you what the error looks like. We're going to go back to our pick from Windows, and it's going to try and process it. So it hasn't found any grids, so we're going to fix the grids first. So let's scroll in, see how big. This is 50 by 76, okay. All right, and there's the error we were looking for. It says we imported your chart, but we're not able to index the symbols. That is usually because the chart is a scanner image. Now, if we open the chart, You can see that it's still, you can still see it. You can still click on the squares to highlight them, but there is no legend. You can still click on blank squares, and there is no way to search for your stitches. Now, unfortunately, this error is caused by the fact that the file is saved as an image, which means that the individual symbols were not indexed as text, which is what Pattern Keeper looks for. Basically, there's nothing you can do to fix this. You can use the chart here as it is imported, or unfortunately, you have to go paper and pen. There is literally no fix for this. But hopefully I just saved you a lot of messing around and trying to make it work. So I've already shown you how you can switch to the PDF while inputting floss to help you be able to input the floss without switching back and forth between programs. So let me show you another couple of cool little tricks that you can do. Most of these are because Pattern Keeper does in fact store the PDF. By default, Pattern Keeper will display the first page of your PDF. However, sometimes it's a little bit small, it's a little bit hard to read, so the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is edit the way it appears in your menu. You're going to use these 3 lines. You're going to go to Edit Chart Info. Let's just say we want to get rid of that PK, we want to call him Cozy Bob, and then click Use Mockup as Thumbnail. Now, all we get is the mockup of the pattern that we want to use. Tip number 3, let's say you like Cozy Bob, but you want to see what he looks like in a blue hat. So again, let's open up the 3 lines. Then you're going to go to Edit Legend. It's going to pull up this screen, which you'll recognize from the screen where you have to input the floss. Now find the colors for whichever one you want to swap out. So in this case, we're going to see how it looks changing out the 469 and 471 for something else. So all you have to do is double click on the symbol you want to change. And then let's say we're going to do 799. We're going to save that. So you see the mockup will automatically update with whatever color you have input. So if we do 471 to 775, Bob's now in a blue hat. And if you were to go back and open up your Pattern Keeper, you can see that those 2 symbols have updated to be 775 and 799. So this is really great if you're doing a recolor, or if you need to substitute a color. You can use this tool, the Edit Legend tool, to basically mock up what changing that particular color is, even if you don't have access to a design program. Say you're working on Cozy Bob and he has some backstitch. You don't want to pull up the pattern on your tablet or your laptop and look up the backstitch and then have to go back to Pattern Keeper and back to the pattern to look at the backstitch. 3-dot menu. What you're going to do is you're going to go to View PDF. Now this is the original PDF that I imported here. If there were a backstitch, it would show up on this chart, and you would be able to backstitch from this chart without leaving Pattern Keeper. You just hit back to get out of this, and then you're back at the main menu. See? Easy. Now on a pattern this size, I probably wouldn't park my threads, but if you're working on a large full coverage piece and you want to make a little notation where you parked your thread, you can still do that in Pattern Keeper. So what you want to do is find the stitch where you're parking. So let's say that I parked it down here. So you're going to use the select tool. Going to select that tool. Do not hit the check mark. You're going to go to more. And here it gives you all the parking options. So let's say we park the thread in the lower right corner, and let's zoom in a little bit so you can see exactly what that did. So you can see on the chart, it has a little blue arrow showing which corner of the square or the stitch was parked. Now, when you go back at a later date and you need to figure out which thread is attached to which park stitch, Pattern Keeper can tell you that. Now, the next tip is a little bit more about aesthetics, but if you are colorblind or have low vision, this one might be very helpful for you. And that is how to change the highlight colors. So when you're open in this screen, you're going to go to the settings menu here. You have a lot of settings that you can play with. You can go from the light theme to the dark theme. Basically, dark theme just makes the empty stitches black instead of white, which is very handy if you're working with a pattern with a lot of light stitches. But what I want to show you is the highlights. So the search color is what comes up when you have a thread selected. The parking color is what I just showed you down in the corner. And the selection color is what color the selected highlighted stitches become. So let's say that my favorite color is pink. So I definitely want to use pink. And I want my park stitches to be orange. And I want my line, my page breaks to be a nice bright red. All right. So now if I go back, you can see that my highlighted stitches are now pink. My line break is here in red. And our park stitch, if we zoom in, is going to be in orange. So that's just, it's a little bit aesthetics, a little bit useful if you have trouble with colors. Now my last tip is also going to be here in the settings menu. If you're a full coverage stitcher who stitches on the diagonal, you can actually make diagonal lines show up in your pattern keeper. All you have to do is come down here, hit diagonal lines, select which way you want your diagonals to go, the spacing between diagonals, so whether you want 10 stitches or 20 stitches, and what color you want that to show up in. So let's say we want our lines to be green. So now if we go back to our chart, if we were working on the diagonal, we can now easily see where those diagonals start and end. All right, I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope you learned something new. If there's anything else you want to know about Pattern Keeper or cross-stitching in general, please leave me a comment down below and I'd be happy to help you out. You can also check out our Discord. We have so many crafters of so many different types that if you have pretty much any crafting question, you will get an answer there. All right, this is it for me. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next crafty video.